Welcome! I'm glad you're here. You're listening to Banjo Chat, where I bring in amazing banjo players and chat with them about their life, their music, their stories, their pitfalls, inspirations, and advice. So, join us on this journey into Banjo Chat. Hello, this is Banjo Chat, and I'm your host, Hillary Hawk. How's it going? How you doing out there? It's Wednesday again. Are you surviving the constant changing times? Is your email inbox bursting at the seams? What's going on? How you doing? I just got back from playing in Pittsburgh. I was playing with Eileen Ivers and the Brigidines, Irish music. It was fun, always great to play with those guys, but it makes me realize how much I'm actually running around all the time. I think this is what being a musician is. I just have to accept it. I always feel like it's going to end. Like, I'm going to have, like, some centering point eventually, and everything's going to feel easier, but it doesn't really happen. It's a 7-hour drive from New York City to Pittsburgh, and I don't know what you all think a long drive is, but 7 hours is like 2 hours too long for me, and I don't know. I'm not living a normal lifestyle, but you know what? I enjoy it, and that's what's important. As much as I complain on here or wherever, it's not boring at all. That's one thing. I'm juggling balls, I'm spinning plates, and making everything fall together into one large pot, and hopefully I can get a meal out of it. Some people wear their hearts on their sleeves, some people are business-minded, some people are type A, and some people are banjo players, so, and some people are all those things. I don't know. The thing that's important, the important question is, if we're in the moment that we're in right now, we're not thinking about the future, and we're not thinking about the past, if we're just in this one moment, are we happy? So, that's the question. I think that's the important question. And we're going to be asking some of those questions today with our guest. My guest today is a championship fiddler, a multi-instrumentalist, and a master banjo player of a multitude of styles ranging from old time to jazz, ragtime, classic banjo, and bluegrass. One of the most eclectic and creative people that I know. They're always pushing the boundaries of what can be done in traditional music, and they can't be put in a box. They play with the Corn Potato String Band, they play as a solo artist, and with many different projects all around because they are that good. I know them as an improviser and someone who also pays careful respect to the history and tradition of music. They wildly abandon the normal on stage while also being a genuine and exceptional educator for workshops, groups, and private music lessons. They carry a charisma on stage that is remarkable and are absolutely one of my favorite people to listen to, watch, and spend time with. Welcome to the Banjo Chat, Aaron Jonah Lewis.
Yo, what's up? Wow, geez, I'm just glowing with that interview. With the intro. Thank you, Hillary. Wow.
Yeah, I just massaged you. I massaged you into the interview.
You really buttered me up like a hot roll.
You slid right in,
Yeah, I mean, speaking of rolls, that's appropriate for Banjo Chat, right?
Oh, wow.
Okay, just getting into it with the puns, the banjo puns. I'm ready.
You're riffing.
I'll never forget the banjo joke you told me. This was probably like 15 years ago.
Oh gosh.
Why are there no banjos in Star Trek?
Uh-huh. Why?
Because it's the future.
I know.
And it's like, but wait.
That one hurts, right? It's like, oh. Yeah.
No, but wait. Isn't there an episode where they have a banjo, actually?
I heard that, but I gotta look it up again, but I think you're right.
Okay, but anyways, we're talking about, actually, I wanted to respond to your intro before you introduced me about running around. Because last summer I did a big solo tour overseas, and then when I got back from that, I went out to the West Coast and I did a big tour solo, and it all went really well. It was great, but I had this sort of feeling. It wasn't just a emotional feeling; it was like an intellectual premonition that these days are numbered. Like this lifestyle, not just for me personally, because for me personally, whatever. I'm getting old, and I have my goals are changing, whatever. I'll talk about that some more. But I think I was talking about this with Lyle too recently. Lyle Werner. I love his Instagram. He's just so thoughtful and articulate. He's the kind of person resonates with me a lot because he's I think his Instagram handle is Flawhammer.
Cool. I don't know Lyle.
Oh, he's fantastic. Lives in New Orleans. He's a great fiddle player, great teacher. Plays banjo wonderfully as well. Just a wonderful human. I've known him a long time. Anyway, he was posting some stuff about how the music industry is basically doomed, and I was like, well, I mean, that's one way of putting it, but like, yeah, the music industry as we know it, and in fact, the whole world as we know it, is coming to an end, and it's not like an apocalyptic flames and plagues, although that is happening too. That is happening actually. But not for everyone. I mean, we live on the Death Star. This is the center of empire, and we enjoy a lot of privilege, and we can bury our heads in the sand pretty deep. But as a musician, we're sort of canaries in the coal mine in a lot of ways. And that last tour, I was like, this is not sustainable. Like, I cannot be flying across the world. I'm not saying I'll never do it. Like, I had some pretty great gigs, but I just think it's going to be a lot less. And my goal for this year is just to stay home, not going overseas. I might go out west later in the year. I'm doing a short tour with Corn Potato to Wisconsin in the summer.
Nice.
And other than that, I'm really focusing on a nonprofit that I'm starting here, my residency work that I've been doing with my ragtime banjo project, and teaching here. I'll have to tell you about Banjo Dojo,
Yes.
which is my current project of offering group classes at no charge.
Yes. I mean, I feel all those things. Like, one thing I always say is that, like, we're all growing old together, which also means that, like, we're all dying together. Like, we're all, we're all dying, like, we're all heading towards that place. So, yeah, there is that feeling of, like, let's actually, like, make something or give something back. Like, what are we doing? Why, be careful of, like, your time and, like, and your energy, and it's cool to have fun and going across seas. That sounds awesome. I like to do that, but yeah, sometimes I do some things and I'm like teaching for a week somewhere and I'm like, wait, how much money is it? That's crazy. Like, in general, I feel like we don't make enough money. I don't know. I don't know if it's about money for you, but it's,
well, I moved back to Detroit, where I'm from originally. I moved back here 10 years ago. I was living in Nashville at the time. Before that, I lived in Berlin, and we met when I was living in New York. And part of the motivation for moving to Detroit, and this is part of why I'm staying here, but my connection to Detroit has deepened and complexified to a great extent since I originally decided I'm going to move to Detroit because it's cheap. And my family's there, and I need some support. If I'm going to be a traveling musician, I can't be paying a lot of rent, and I can't be, like, in a place where I'm all alone. I need people who can, check on the house for me, or, whatever, like pick me up from the airport, stuff like that. So that is how I lived my first few years in Detroit. But in the past few years, I've been... Well, yeah, I mean, also been, like, organizing square dances in Detroit for 10 years and, like, just building community in various ways and really getting more and more invested in being here and finding the people who we click with, who we help each other grow, we help each other learn. And that's been really fulfilling. But, yeah, like, speaking of... needing money, like, yeah, I need money to survive. I don't need as much money as a lot of other people, so as a result I have more free time, and I can think about what are my real motivations for doing what I'm doing. It's like a lot of people do a lot of stuff just because you need money to survive, and, like, I'm sorry, like, that is tough. That's, like, the situation a lot of people are in. I have the privilege to, like, zoom out a little bit and take some space and say, well, okay, if I didn't need money, would I still do this? And I'm able to mostly just do the things that I'm like, yeah, I would do that whether it paid or not. And then sometimes it pays and sometimes it doesn't, and usually it works out okay. I mean, I'm doing okay. I'm not wealthy by any means, but it's working out. So yeah, it's a great privilege to have this freedom, this free time, and the trade-off is I don't live in New York or LA. I don't live in Nashville. I live in Detroit, which is a little bit off the beaten path, but it's still a big city with like lots of diverse culture, lots of activities, music, art, dance, all kinds of stuff's going on here all the time. So
yeah.
I don't say just think about coming out here for a visit.
No, I always do. I mean, I think that you're also smart. Like, you thought about the bigger picture, and you said, like, hey, I got to lower my overhead. And you're not like me, still chasing the dream in New York City, where I've every moment of my life is a hustle. And I think that idea of having some free time is really like attractive to me right now. Because I'm getting tired, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing what I do. I think I just need a little more time to figure it out. I'm like an immature 15-year-old, like still in my mind, but yeah, it seems like you're doing great stuff out there, and I really like every direction that you're going in. Since I've seen, like, I've been discovering your stuff this past week, and the stuff you've been doing with Banjo Dojo and the ragtime banjo, and then of course this Joe Morley project, your recent CD, and your Dos Senoritas CD, which is kind of why I was looking into your music for this interview. So it's really cool stuff going on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I made vinyl for the first time in my life.
How'd that feel?
It's mixed feelings.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's like it feels a little bit indulgent, but also like there is a lot of enthusiasm for it, and it does sound really, really good, and it feels really good. It's really special. It's a 10-inch.
Yeah. Oh.
And there's only 100 copies. And it's 45 RPM, so the sound quality is really, really good. And it's thick. It's like this whole thing. It's like it just feels really good. It's like,
wow.
I mean, CDs are good too, but like, man, yeah, the vinyl. I think I'm gonna try and get vinyl done for the Ragtime Banjo revival once I raise the money for that too. Like, it's the best sounding stuff I've ever done, and like Dos Senoritas, like, God bless the people who recorded, mixed, and mastered it, because like we're playing on Senorita banjos, which were never great banjos. Like, they're okay banjos. They're like decent banjos. But, it's kind of a cute thing to have a pair of matching banjos and record duets on them. But this Ragtime Banjo project, Ragtime Banjo Revival, I'm recording with my Weaver banjo, which is a professional quality banjo. It's built in 1928. And with professional recording engineer, in a bunch of different spaces with 10 different ensembles. It's just a huge project, and everything just sounds miles beyond anything I've ever done before. Not in terms of like, I mean, yeah, of course the playing is the best I've ever done too, but I mean the sound quality is like just beyond anything I've done before.
So this ragtime banjo thing, this is newer than anything that you've put out so far. This is
right.
Yeah.
It's not yet released. If you want to get a little taste of it, I just have some iPhone rehearsal recordings up on my website, ragtimebanjo.com, which just, it's really a shame that that's all I have to put up right now. I just don't want to be putting up stuff that's not released.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's that website with a few samples of what the different ensembles sound like. There's wind quintet, string quintet, there's duets with pipe organ, duets with guitar, there's a surf rock band, there's a marimba ensemble.
That's so cool.
There's some stuff with full orchestra. So yeah, this project is kind of like where I'm heading with my career is like, on the one hand, getting this project to be released is a nonprofit endeavor. It's never going to be making money, but it's not going to make the money back that went into it because I hired 30 musicians. And this world-class recording engineer, David Shaw, and videographer, and et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
So I'm looking for donors to make that happen, and as well as other fundraising strategies. But then it's also a live performance and educational program that I'm taking around. Like in November, I went to the New England Conservatory and did a residency there. In October, I was at Ohio Northern University. And it's it's what I've been dreaming of doing for years, and now it's happening. It's like I go to a musical institution. It could be a music school, it could be a big festival, or it could be a professional orchestra, and I can go and do lectures, presentations, a master class, and then do a concert or series of concerts where I'm rehearsing with the students or with with professionals, and then doing a series of performances with these different ensembles, and just really like showing off the scope of like what the banjo can do, providing people with sounds that they've never heard before, but they still sound familiar, and they're like very accessible, very engaging, very like delightful kind of sounds. It's not like weird or challenging. It's just like pleasant.
So is this like your own creation, or is this coming from like the ragtime banjo history or tradition?
Both.
Okay.
So I am not coming up with original tunes. I'm taking music that was written, most of it before recording technology was available, some of them by famous composers like Scott Joplin, a lot of them by unknown composers or less famous composers, and featuring work by black composers and European composers and other, white American composers. The thing that's original about it is the instrumentation and the arrangements. So in some cases I took little liberties. Like I had a rehearsal last night with a cellist, and they were like, well, I really like this part. And I was like, oh yeah, I wrote that.
Nice.
I was just like, oh, I want to have a little cello solo in here. That wasn't in the original score, but I think it fits. So yeah, it's really innovative, but not in a beat you over the head with how innovative it is kind of way. It's like, it just sounds like old music, but it's music that wouldn't have been possible 100 years ago because you would have needed microphones for it to be possible, for a banjo to play with a pipe organ.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
True. I listened to a little bit of it on your website, and I heard like oboes and some horns. It was really cool. I was like, wow, I didn't know that this existed, but now that I know it's your arrangements of it, that even makes it more exciting because it still sounds old, but it sounds like fun,
Yeah,
and cool.
It's fresh. I mean, like,
fresh.
Here's the thing. I don't see myself. I don't like. You probably disagree. I don't see myself as a very creative person. I just take stuff that I think is cool and I work with it. I don't have a big focus on creating new things. I more just try to interpret things that I think have been forgotten, and I try to bring attention to them. I'm like, you guys, why do we forget about ragtime? Come on, like, ragtime is so foundational, and it's so nice. It's just it's like, it's very pleasant, and it's also like very relevant, in terms of the history of it.
Yeah.
To draw attention to it. So anyway, I could talk about ragtime for hours, but I know you maybe want other stuff to talk about too. I don't know.
Well, I do think you're a creative person, and I know, like, how do you qualify creativity? And like, we could sit here and be like, oh, these things, and this person does that, and this. But I don't know. I remember the first time. I don't know if the classic banjo stuff is related to ragtime banjo, but I remember, like, I don't know how long ago, 10 years ago, you first started telling me about that you were interested in, like, classic banjo, or maybe it was longer than 10 years ago, and I remember you were telling me about it, and I was like, it's going in one ear and going out the other, and I was like, blink, 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 like piano keys, like, blink, 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 like, I was like, cool, like, all right, like, and I didn't know where you were gonna go with it, and, like, to see where you've taken this and how good you've gotten at it, and, like, what you've done with this, and and this whole like Joe Morley project that you were working on. I don't know, is that related to the ragtime banjo, or can you just tell us a little bit about
absolutely that? Well, yeah, so I mean, around the turn of the century, for a number of decades, the turn of the 20th century, the banjo was the most popular instrument in the English-speaking world on both sides of the Atlantic, and the music that was being played on the banjo, this time period overlaps with the popularity of ragtime. So ragtime music was being played on the banjo, and actually ragtime music comes from banjo music.
We're talking about like 1900s, right? Like 1900s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Late 1800s, early 1900s.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I often like tell people when I'm like pitching my merch, I'll say I have a really lovely set of liner notes that'll give you all the information about this stuff. It comes with a CD. So the Joe Morley Project has really nice liner notes, and the CD is good too. But yeah, so they're happening at the same time. How can I do this really concisely? So let's see. Classic banjo is the term that people use now, or have been using for the past 50 or so years, to talk about this music. At the time, they just called it banjo music, or just music, because everyone was playing the banjo.
Woohoo!
So yeah, and it's been largely forgotten. I think partly because most of it was really popular before recording technology was available, and also because we live in a system where forgetting the past is important, and like being disconnected from our ancestors is a central feature of keeping people in a consumerist mindset, in an isolated, suspicious, fearful mindset, in a mindset of obey and purchase, and scarcity. Like, sorry, I'm going a few steps too far.
No, I liked that dark little tunnel you just went down. That was cool. I liked it.
This stuff I think about. I mean, it's like I'm constantly asking myself, why am I doing this? And I could go into all the reasons, and it's very thought out. Connecting to history is a central value for me. It's like very important to me to use music as a way of connecting myself and the people that I'm around to a sense of history, to a sense of belonging, to a sense of empowerment, to not just accept what we've been given. I mean, not just in terms of like the past, because what we're told of history is very limited. It's very limited, and it's, history is written by the victors, as they say. So a lot of stuff is missing, and part of my mission is to bring that stuff to light. Like it's common knowledge for most of us that the banjo was invented by enslaved African people in the Caribbean in the 17th century or earlier. That's the earliest documentation. But a lot of people still don't know that, and why, And anyways, it's also to give us choices for the future, because part of my choice of how I choose to live is not to simply accept, freedom means I can choose between Coke and Pepsi. It means no, I can have ginger tea. I can go and pick some berries and make juice from that. I don't have to accept the options that I've been given. It's like what I was saying the last time we talked about being a banjo player as a subversive act. It's like, okay, look, you can be whatever you want and be a banjo player. I just want more banjo players to understand this connection between a banjo player. Like when you're playing a banjo, you're connected to something really deep. And especially if you're a white person playing a banjo, you have to recognize that you'll never completely understand the significance of it. You can only try. And it's important that you try.
Yeah. But I will say, like, there's no better, I don't know, in my mind, there's no better instrument to actually, like, look into history and ask these questions than the banjo. I think it's one of the most trackable historical instruments. I don't know, it's the most fascinating to me, and it has a rich history. I almost feel lucky that we get to, like, dig into this stuff so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's right there in your hands, and it just takes you places. It's like to sit there and play music that people have been playing for hundreds of years, to find old tunes like that, and it really connects you. And you can always think about the fact that banjos were always in the hands of working people. Yeah. And then so when we get up to the end of the 19th century, the late 1800s, by that time, the banjo had already become a very popular instrument, and, by the mid-19th century, through minstrel shows, banjos were very much associated with black people, with plantation, and had this sort of negative connotation for white people. And then, towards the late 19th century, banjo manufacturers found ways to make lots of banjos for cheap, and so they wanted to sell them to lots of people, and in order to do that, they had to rebrand the banjo as a white instrument, as a civilized instrument, as a genteel, parlor instrument. So I think that the development of this classic banjo music is partly coming from, the patterns of capitalism that keep us making new things and discarding old things and rewriting history and erasing history.
Wow.
And it's also part of a genuine artistic movement of professional banjo players who are a new class of musician in the mid-19th century. These minstrel shows are everywhere. There's lots of professional banjo players because banjo was essential to the minstrel show. And like any musicians, they were interested in innovating and collaborating and learning new things. They came in contact with Spanish guitar players who introduced them to this three-finger style of playing. And that's kind of where the classic banjo music comes from, is transitioning from what we called, minstrel style, which sort of evolved into clawhammer playing, the downstroke with the thumb on the upstroke, to more like a guitar style, finger style of playing. And that is what gave rise to ragtime, was like this roll effect of like do 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 do.
Yes, right, right.
Both of Scott Joplin's parents were banjo players who played three-finger style.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like I was saying, when I came across classic banjo, I thought, oh, this is like the banjo version of piano ragtime. That's cute. And then years later, I figured out, actually, piano ragtime is the piano version of the banjo music that came for it.
Mind blown.
First. Yeah.
Mind blown right now. Wow.
Yeah, like after the Civil War, black people did not have a lot of avenues for social advancement, and music was one of those ways. And if you were trying to kind of move up in society, you wanted to sort of be acceptable and respectable, and the piano was a symbol of acceptability, respectability, and kind of middle class, civilization. So that's why Scott Joplin wasn't a famous banjo player. He was a famous piano player and composer. So you had more and more people playing the piano in order to, kind of go along with this pattern. But a lot of them were coming at it from the banjo, and that's the sensibility that they brought to it, was this do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and ragtime comes from jig time. And the jig comes from African Americans. Right. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, well, it makes sense, kind of. We need a beginning spot, and yeah, that's where it all came from. It's African American music. So
yeah,
in the United States, and well, are you playing finger style? So when you're playing ragtime or the classic banjo stuff, are you playing finger style?
Yeah.
Okay, and are you using a flat pick or finger picks?
No.
Nothing.
So if you talk to the diehard classic banjo fanatics, they're very kind of rigid about what it means to play classic banjo. It has to be done with nylon strings and bare fingers. And I think it's okay to use you can use finger picks, you can use metal strings. It'll just be a different sound. But I'm choosing for the most part to use the sort of traditional style, the pre-bluegrass sounds, because they're so rare, and it's like I want to give people something different to hear. It's a different sound, and it's a different feel. I like it a lot. Although I did slice my thumb at one point because I love cooking, and I was, the mandolin slicer. Anyone out there with a mandolin slicer, get one of those mesh gloves. Just please get one of those and wear it, because I was like, I don't need to wear it. I'm just slicing a carrot. And it's like, oh shoot, do I have to cancel the tour now? So I did have a situation where I couldn't use my thumb without a pick. So I was like, okay, I tried playing the nylon strings with the pick. I was like, I don't like that. So I have a nice Gibson, TB conversion, and I played that. I played all my classic banjo stuff on that for a weekend, and I was like, oh man, the American Banjo Fraternity is not going to like it if I tell people this, but I kind of like this. I like the way it sounds. I like the way it feels. It's different. But I decided to stick with the nylon strings just because, it's a less commonly heard sound, and it is a really nice. It's very warm. It's got a really nice sustain to it. But also it depends how you set it up. Depends what kind of bridge you use, what kind of strings you use, what kind of action you have. So, I'm not like super knowledgeable with like the hands-on side of things. Like obviously I can change a head, I can change my bridge, change my strings, but I'm not a big tinkerer. I tinker very slowly. So I've tried a few different sets of strings, and I'm pretty set on what I've got. I like the bridge I've got, and this is my sound now. Maybe if it changes, it'll take some years for that to happen.
Yeah, a couple questions. What strings are you using?
I'm using a custom set of labella nylon strings, which if you want to know exactly what they are, send me an email or contact stringsbymail.com.
I love strings by mail.
Ask for the Aaron Jonah Lewis set.
Nice. your own special set. Yeah, nice.
I don't have a sponsorship with them. I actually was like, you guys, I send a lot of people to you. What do you think about giving me like some free strings once in a while? And they're like, yeah, no.
Oh yeah, no, that never works.
I don't know.
I've
Some
tried the
people
same
have
thing.
that.
Yeah, no, I've tried the same thing with Deering. I'm like, hey guys, yeah, I buy like boxes of 12 every couple months. Can you help me out here? It's like, come on.
Well, it's not just you buying it. It's like you telling students and telling people on your podcast. Like a lot of people are getting influenced by you, and it's like, hey, this is good for both of us. Like you want me to tell people about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, if I had any business acumen, I would be on top of that, but I just don't have any time or energy for doing that stuff for myself. I don't know.
I know. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm just like, does this really matter to me that much?
I don't know. Someone help me and Aaron, please. with that side of it.
If someone out there wants to be like my business manager, I'll give you like name a percentage. You can have it. I don't care. I just want to keep working.
Yeah, same. Well, I do want to get to listening to some of your music, but I have a question just about your perspective of shows. Like when you're playing, you play a lot of shows. You've been playing for a long time, and I don't know if people out there, if they don't know you, I mean, you're an incredible fiddler and just an eclectic musician in all styles. And not just a banjoist, and so you've run the gamut of playing all different kinds of jazz and songwriter, and I don't know, is there any other style of music besides jazz and songwriter? Oh, old time and bluegrass and country, everything. So
yeah, don't forget free improv
experimental, and I heard some of the
Turkish classical music,
Balkan, I'm sure.
Yeah, Balkan, and the odd classical gig.
There you go. Well, so the question is, the question, here it is. Here it's coming. Do you... okay, so I try to have like an intention when I play a show. Like when I go out and play a show, it's not about like Hillary Hawk. It's not about like, hey, look at me. I'm trying to like deliver something to the audience, and like I think in my shows I try to make a connection with the audience. I try to make them laugh, try to feel like, hey, I'm happy you're here. Like we're part of something greater. Make eye contact, make them, feel special. Do you have an intention when you have a show? Is there like a message you always have like overhanging that you're like, I want to make sure people leave and they feel this kind of, or know this. So, do you have any of that?
Oh yeah, very much. And it took a long time for that to develop. When I first got into performing, I was just like, this is fun. I get some free beer. And I'm going to goof off with my friends. And it was very self-indulgent. It really took going solo. Like I started playing solo when I moved to Berlin in 2010, and that's when I had to start thinking about, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? So at this point, at least, I'll cut to fast forward to the present. My intention with performing is to build connection and raising awareness. But connection is really what it's all about. Connecting with your own self, getting outside of all the noise, just being present, connecting with people around you. Like I'll often ask the venue to not play house music before the concert or after, because I want people to have a chance to experience what it was like for most of human history, which was to not experience recorded music. It's like you'd go to hear music and there would be silence.
Wow.
And then there would be music, and then there would be silence. And during that time, people talk to each other. If there's music playing, they're more likely to just sit there and look at their phones or something.
Yes.
But if there's nothing going on, it's like, oh, what's that? Oh, hey, oh yeah, people will be more likely to chat. And then I'm also trying to build connections with the past and the future, so that people, I spend, a good portion of my stage time talking about the history of the music. It's become really important to me. And people seem to respond really well to it. I mean, often, pretty much every show, someone will come up to me and say, your playing is great, but I love the stories. That's so interesting. So that's kind of my one word is connection. And like you said that too. The other thing, like you also said, I would just want people to feel good. I'm no longer wanting to get that validation of like, you're so good at music. Mm-hmm. To me, that's almost frustrating because it's like, I failed because I made it about me.
Yeah.
What I don't want you to say, Aaron's so good at music. I want you to say, I feel so good right now. I feel like life is good. You know? That's my goal when I'm performing is I feel like life is good sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, should we listen to some of your music?
Sure, let's do it.
Great. We're going to do something we've never done here on Banjo Chat. We're going to do a little Phil Shapp kind of thing from WKCR here in New York City. We're going to do a comparison. You have two albums. You have two albums out that are the most recent, and one of them is the Dos Senoritas album with Ben Belcher, who I'm a huge fan of, and I've never met Ben. So it's really
what?
No, I've never met Ben.
He's slippery.
Unless he played with the Hot Seats, and I met you guys. Like I met him with I don't know. So yeah, I've never met him. Whatever. Thanks Ben. But
no, he's the reason I got into playing banjo. I mean, he's amazing.
He's amazing. Well, we're gonna listen to it right now. So we're gonna listen to this tune Zorana on Dos Senoritas, and then we're gonna listen to it on your Mozart of the Banjo CD, a couple years earlier. So here we go. Let's take a listen to Zorana. So cool. It's Ben Belcher on the second banjo and you on the first, I guess. And both banjos, they're using like you guys are using like a bass line, or I guess I don't know if that's Ben doing kind of like a bass line. But it reminds me of I don't mean this in a bad way, but it reminds me of like merry-go-round music. Like a carousel.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing. Anything it reminds you of, it's like this is where that came from. The thing that it reminds you of, this is where that came from. This came before that. Ah,
I see.
You know, people say, "Oh, it reminds me of silent movie music." It's like, well, yeah, this came before silent movies.
I see.
Or this was from the time of silent movies. But yeah, so interesting thing about this music, right? It was published in sheet music form. It wasn't recorded. It wasn't sold as a CD or a tape or a vinyl. And when it was sold, it would be sold as a solo with a second banjo part accompaniment and a piano part accompaniment.
Ah, gotcha.
Sometimes just one or the other. So I wanted to record it with the piano, but I also wanted to record it with the second banjo part. So it's a lot of fun when you can find people who are like able to read the parts.
Ah, gotcha.
You can just jam out with these duets.
So he played the piano part. Or no, yeah, he played the piano part.
He played the second banjo part. It was written for banjo.
It was written for two banjos.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like I said, banjo was the thing. Like everyone was into the banjo. So of course there were parts for multiple banjos. I mean, there's banjo orchestras back in the day.
So like when I'm listening to it, I hear like a fast accompaniment, slow melody line sometimes. There's no tremolo. Like I kept waiting to hear like a little like on one string, but most of it's arpeggiated. Like I'm hearing like arpeggiated kind of rolls.
Yeah, and the tremolo happens sometimes, but yeah, with this piece, yeah, it's a lot of that arpeggiated roll kind of stuff, and sort of broken chords, do dee do dee do dee do.
So I do want to compare this to this other version of the tune from the Mozart of the Banjo, the Joe Morley project. So here we go. We're going to take a listen to that. So I already love this because I love piano and banjo together already. Like I love that sound. This is like a slightly faster tempo, but similarly striking kind of percussive sound throughout. Really exciting and energetic. I like both.
I'll just add, if you want to hear the arrangement of Zorana that I played with full orchestra, I put it up on YouTube recently, or maybe it's unlisted, maybe it's only on my Patreon. Join my Patreon and then you'll have access to it. But yeah, we did that at the Ohio Northern University, and man, what a thrill. Yeah, all the strings and the horns and the percussion, everything.
What? Really?
Big sound. Yeah, it was really fun.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I didn't know you did all that. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because I didn't know you were doing that. And I should know that. And now I know, but before this, I didn't know that. That's amazing. Everybody go check that out.
I mean, this Ragtime Banjo Revival project only got started kind of like just before I released the Morley project, the Mozart of the Banjo. I started working on this project. But it's been kind of under wraps for a long time, and I still haven't come up with my strategy for how to like spread the word about it, because it's not ready to be released yet. I have to raise the money in order to finish the project, pay people for their work, and get all the mastering and artwork, et cetera, et cetera. But in the meantime, I still have these videos. I've been doing these residencies. I got to share it with people. I'm like really proud, and I need to like have my promotional materials to get more work. So so it is out there. You can see that full concert video. It's at least on Patreon. It might also be you might be findable on YouTube.
Well, hopefully the business manager that's listening to this is going to help you with that, getting that money raised.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if I could get like twice as many people signed up for my Patreon as I currently have, I wouldn't really have to worry so much about any of this. I wouldn't have to worry so much about stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah, I hear you. So cool. Well, I wanted to kind of do a little, that's like a fast tune. And, we've been saying the name Joe Morley, and he was kind of, the banjoist composer that was very prolific of this style of music, right? Of this time. Yeah. It kind of like, I hate the word prodigy, but kind of like, obsessively writing these tunes and very good at it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot like Mozart, just kind of naturally writing tunes all the time. He's known for saying the hardest part for him was naming them, or actually like writing them down, because he's constantly coming up with stuff. And supposedly there's over 300 pieces published, but there's at least twice as many unpublished, just floating around.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen a stack of his manuscripts at a friend's house, and I was like, what? Like, what? Yeah, it's just gold. Like, Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's listen to one that's like a little slower because, the banjo doesn't just play fast. So let's check this one out. Oh, sorry. This is called Mauna Loa, and this is going to be with you and Ben Belcher again. Here we go. So beautiful, and you don't need much more than that. Like it's just really nice. And you know what it like gets me about this is like you're very virtuosic, and you can do all that stuff, but even when you're playing slowly, the two of you, it's like exciting and charismatic. Like I feel like I can feel your personalities in every note, and it's so cool. I really, it's a beautiful tune.
Yeah. Well, Ben and I have been playing together I've been playing with Ben longer than anyone else. And we have just a great rapport. It's musically, well, also we're really good friends, but yeah. This piece is also funny because it's like banjo music that was written to emulate Hawaiian music, which was also really popular at this time, like at the early 20th century. And Morley was a British composer, so that's what it's like Hawaiian music made its way to England and filtered through the mind of a banjo composer, and it's just like, what? Like, I just love this stuff when you get... I was talking with this cellist last night who's also really into music history, and it's like, when you start to find out about things that aren't on the internet, that gets really exciting. Because people will say, oh, everything's on the internet now. It's like, no... There's so many interesting things. I've been reading this book, Ragged But Right, which is about the origins of ragtime. And they're talking about all these people, all these great performers, black performers, theater people, musicians, singers, dancers, comedians. And none of it's on YouTube. None of it's like even the sheet music, you can't track it down for these big hits from the mid-19th century. It's like, oh my God, so fascinating.
Help you picture all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of research for that book. They did a lot of digging around through old newspapers and journals. So, yeah, you get a sense from the primary sources, but what it actually sounded like, some of those things we'll never know. We can only kind of infer through existing recordings or existing pieces of sheet music.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's listen to the same tune from your Mozart of the Banjo, and we're going to hear some of that ukulele that's on there. So, the Hawaiian influence. Here we go. Here it comes right now. So if you thought it couldn't get any slower, it got slower. It's the slower the better, in my opinion. It's like you got bass on this, you have ukulele, It's a little swingier. I love it so much, and I would love to hear this version of the tune like played by like a large group of people, just like a bunch of banjoists, like just all learn this tune. It's really nice.
Oh yeah, let's bring back those days of big banjo orchestras. Um, I mean, I want to be careful when I say let's bring back those days. I don't mean like let's go back to the past, because the past was really horrible in a lot of ways. But part of my work is about acknowledging the ways it was horrible, and also saying let's not discard all of it, because there were some really good things about the ways people connected with each other that we're losing now.
Yes. I got that though.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you have a favorite tune from any of these albums? Do you have one that, I mean, these are the ones that I've been listening to, and these two stood out to me a lot, and I really like these two. But do you have a favorite tune from these albums?
Well, it's hard to say like a singular favorite, but what comes to mind when I first heard "You and a Canoe" being played by Curly Miller and Carol Ann Rose and Clark Bueling, aka the Old 78s, I was like, "Well, this is something else," you know. And when I play it, I would sometimes introduce it half jokingly as, "This might be the most beautiful piece of music ever written for the banjo. In fact, this might be the most beautiful piece of music ever written." It's just so the thing. It's so romantic and sentimental and like nostalgic, and it's like, it's just got such a, I like art, whether it's music, film, dance, theater, whatever. I like things that create an entire world. And this piece of music creates an entire world. But yeah, I also really love Egyptian Princess. That one is really fun. I don't know. I have a classic banjo student here in Detroit who has gotten to a pretty advanced level, and we played that for her recital. I wrote a second banjo part for it. Strangely, some of these pieces don't have second banjo parts, but but having done it enough, I can write a second banjo part. And it's actually something I do with the advanced students. I'll say, hey, write a second banjo part for this piece. Or, she made original arrangements of John Denver songs. Like she's really into John Denver. She's like made a original arrangement of a John Denver song for the banjo, for two banjos. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I want to record it with her. It's like, yeah. So anyways, just, it's a certain type of creativity. Obviously, I love to improvise, and I love to, that's a different kind of creativity, but it's related, Improvising is just writing music on the spot.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right in the moment. Well, I have one final question before we kind of like wrap things up. And I guess the question is, I'm trying to say, like, what do you wish people would do more of to support the musicians in their life? And I mean that even if you are a musician, like if the person listening here today, if you are a musician, what do you wish that people would do more to support other musicians in their life? I mean, yeah, I guess beyond what it sounds like beyond like throwing $5 in or $10 in a tip jar, like what do you wish people would do more of?
Yeah. The obvious thing that comes to mind is money, of course. Like, join the Patreon, buy the vinyl, etc. But really, that's not what I really care. I want to live in a world where money is unnecessary. It's irrelevant. Obviously, I'm that's the direction I'm going in. I'm trying to need less money and spend less money and remove myself from these systems. But what I would really like to see more of is, and this is kind of a tall order because it's more involved than just giving someone your money. It's actually showing up and giving your attention. So that could mean leaving the house and going to a concert, finding those house concerts, maybe even getting your friends to come to a concert, starting a house concert series. There's a lot of places that don't even have much live music at all. I don't know. I don't think everyone in the world has to play an instrument, but we do need to make some effort in order to support music. We have to be willing to participate.
Yeah.
And not just consume it, not just be fed it. The most meaningful musical experiences I've ever had did not involve a stage or an audience or a ticket price. They were either spontaneous or they were somehow part of a planned activity where it was just everyone was part of it. Everyone was involved. You didn't have to know the words. You didn't have to play an instrument, but you were there giving it. You were contributing. Everyone was together. The thing that I would say that I want to encourage people to do is to use your imagination a little bit. Try to think a little bit beyond, like you said, I can't be put into a box. I'm like, that's kind of true. I'm very resistant to boxes. However, if it's a nice box, I could get into it for a little while. but I want to say, like, challenge yourself to think outside of whatever you've been told. And think about, and I tell this to my students too, think about your motivation for everything. But I mean, in the music context, think about why do you want to play music and not what are your goals. Like, I want to be able to play rolls fast. And it's like, no, like, what is it? What need is it fulfilling for you? Do you have a need for mental stimulation? Is it a challenge thing, like a crossword jigsaw puzzle kind of challenge? Or is it a need for comfort and beauty, or a need for belonging? And you want to like reach out and be with people and have a structure where you can fit in, like kind of like a square dance where you don't have to think, what do I do now? It's like everyone, you do-si-do, and then you swing your partner. You know, here we play the A part, then we play the B part, then we play the A part again. And that's comforting.
Yeah.
So use your imagination and think about, you know, what are your own needs that you need to fulfill, and how can you do that with music? How can you support people who are doing that?
I don't know. I mean, we're preaching to the choir because I'm sure the people that are listening to this already seek out music and seek out folk music or traditional, or I don't know, music of the people. But I think the commercial music has created a little bit of a monoculture for some people, and I think that commercial music today, I think it really is fine. I also feel like just push yourself a little bit and see what else is out there. And it's a delicate subject to get people to do that sometimes, because I think, you know, for whatever reason, the idea that you hate something or you like something but you don't know why, it's really easy to fall into those categories. And so I think I don't really know how to counter that, but I think the way that you said it is like, you know, if you want to stimulate yourself and find something more than just what's on the radio, or, you know, I don't even know if I'm answering my own question, but that's where I kind of went with what you were saying.
I'm going to try not to go on too much, but there's this whole boomer-generated old-time industry that keeps people in an infantile state of like, I can only play what I've been taught by so-and-so famous person in a workshop setting. And now they don't even do it in person. It's like, oh, I've got a video series you can pay for and watch me play a tune slowly. And then what are you capable of doing? Playing that same tune slowly, which is helpful for what? I mean, okay, maybe it gives you some pleasure. Like, I don't want to take that away from you. But like, I'll have this conversation when people are like, no, you're a good musician. You can do that. And I'm like, no, you're a human. You have a brain and a heart. Like, you can do it too. You don't have to sound good. You don't have to sound, you know, interesting. But like, find your own voice. Like, are you gonna only like say things that other people have said to you? No, that's not how it works. You learn how to use the language and you express yourself. I just want to clarify, it's totally okay to learn tunes from videos or to go to workshops and to learn tunes that way, and you know, to color between the lines, and that's totally fine. What I think would really help musicians, and really everyone, is to keep in mind an awareness of consumer culture, and to just be aware that we can go beyond that, and really to use the imagination, not just in a specifically musical sense, but to keep in mind that the systems that we've inherited are not the systems that are going to see us through. The way things are going, we need change, we need imagination, we need to envision new possibilities. And for me, the banjo is a great trigger for that, because the banjo makes you think differently.
Go and enjoy all these pleasures of the world that are out there.
and take a risk.
Take a risk.
Fall on your face. Sound terrible.
Yeah.
Lose your place.
Life is messy. Let's get messy.
Yeah. Fall off the bike and get back on.
Let's rip our shirts. Let's rip our shirts. No, I mean, I love that because those are my favorite moments in my life when that happens. I fall, like on stage. Like, yeah, wah, I fell. My picks are flying. Like, I love those moments, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, if you are performing, audiences notice that and they love it. They love it so much when you make a mistake because that's you being real.
Yeah. I don't know.
When I talk about, like, finding your own style, which is, like, such a difficult thing, and it's something I still am working on. It's for the rest of my life, I'll be working on it. One thing that's really helpful with it, sorry, we're probably over time, but, like, when you're looking for your own style, pay close attention to the ways that you make mistakes, because no one else makes mistakes the same way as you. And you can find those things that you think of as mistakes, and you can reframe them as, like, my unique style. And then if you embrace it and celebrate and like, this is no one else does this is how I play, then that's really powerful, and you find your own voice that way.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I really do. That's awesome. Well, thanks for this unique perspective, Aaron. This is really I had a great time. And I do want to just point people towards your website, which is www.aaronjonahlewis.com. And then also to check out ragtimebanjo.com, and your band with Ben Belcher is also, and I forgot the third person in that band. I don't know why I'm forgetting.
Lindsay McCaw.
Of course, Lindsay McCaw. It fell out of my...
Fiddlin' Lindsay McCaw.
Fiddlin' Lindsay McCaw. I know Lindsay.
I was fiddling puppeteer.
I totally forgot for a second, but yes, Lindsay McCaw is awesome. And that's Corn Potato. Cornpotato.com?
Yeah, cornpotato.com.
Yeah, check out Corn Potato.
The ears and eyes of America.
So, and then I know you got the Banjo Dojo, and I forgot the website for that, if you wouldn't mind filling us in.
There's a Substack for that. It's banjodojo.substack.com, and it's like anyone in the world is invited to subscribe, and you can donate if you want, but it's intended to be totally free. I'm trying to remove barriers to access, so no one has to pay anything. If you do pay something, it helps. If no one ever pays anything, I probably won't be able to keep it going. But it's really targeted at people in and near Detroit for these in-person sessions that I'm doing 6 times a month, where we just get together and it's unstructured. It's a 4-hour potluck where we just have open time. Like, you have questions about music, you want to learn a thing, you're struggling with a thing, you don't even know anything about anything, you're feeling inspired, you're feeling uninspired. We'll talk about music, we'll listen to music, we'll play music. If you don't want to do anything else, you can watch me practice. We might just change strings. We might watch a documentary. We'll have some food, and I'm trying to. I've had a good response with that so far. I've only had about 5 of these sessions, but I was like, I'm not gonna wait until I have a nonprofit or I have some funding to do this. I'm too impatient. I just want to be able to contribute. I want to make my knowledge and experience available, and I'm fed up with the 1 hour give me the knowledge format, or the hour and a half. It's never enough for me. It's too much pressure. I just want to be able to say, hey, welcome. What are you thinking about? Oh, here's what I've been thinking about. Oh yeah, let's check this out. Oh, here's a tune you might like. And just take our time with it.
Yeah, that's really human. That's nice.
And remove the pressure too of like, you have to show up on time. It's like, no, just drop in anytime. I think that's a more traditional approach to learning. I think it's a pretty recent thing that people are like scheduling weekly hour-long lessons, which I'll still schedule with people. Yeah, y'all, I have some availability if you want to schedule online lessons or whatever. But yeah, I think in the past, if you wanted to learn a craft of some kind, you'd go hang out with people who were doing it and watch and ask questions, and if they could tolerate your presence, then you'd end up learning stuff. And I think that's how I've learned a lot of stuff with fiddle and banjo, is just hanging out with people and not from going to workshops and taking lessons, which of course I would go to workshops and take lessons too. But I just want to make it available to people. and it's really gratifying for me. It's like a selfish project for me to be able to just share, and I want to subvert the hierarchy of knowledge and basically give away the knowledge that I have so that other people can have it and give it away to other people. And then I don't need to be in this position of like, I know I'm the one person who knows all this stuff.
Yeah. All right, well, that's great, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I could really talk some ears off.
No, it's great.
No, thanks for having me, Hillary. It's been great. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you all for listening. If you have questions, you can email the banjochatpodcast@gmail.com. That's banjochat followed by podcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Instagram @banjochat. All right, goodbye.
Bye.
If you'd like to support the Banjo Chat podcast, check out our new Patreon page at patreon.com/banjochat. Also, give us a like, a review, and subscribe, and that'll help boost it along so we can keep making these for you. Thanks.